So it's Limerick 229, Tipperary 321. Limerick have won the Munster Senior Hurling Championship for a third year in a row. They become the first team, and as a matter of fact, to win three Munster Senior Hurling Championships in a row since 1986. What an achievement in the end for Limerick. Fair play to them for getting the job done. And of course, as always, my name is Aaron. This is the Match Reaction here on GAA Fan TV. And of course, I am rocking this Tipperary jersey. I do have family in Thurles, Tipperary, so I always support Tipperary when it comes to the hurling. Well, when Dublin are not involved. But yeah, look, listen, in the end, Limerick with a tremendous comeback, 10 points down at half time, outscoring Limerick, in the third quarter by 2-12 to 2 points. An extraordinary turnaround from the Treaty County. Just an immense turnaround. The likes of Kyle Hayes scoring probably one of the best hurling goals you'll see this year. Shamey Flanagan causing all sorts of problems. Aaron Gillane, who came off the bench, was absolutely fantastic. He really, really was. And look, listen, I know there were certainly some contentious issues. Aaron Gillane should have been sent off. Absolutely no doubt about it. Aaron Gillane obviously on Cathal Barra. A trip with his leg, obviously, and a smack at a hurl as well. For me, that's a red card. Certainly, would have changed the complexion of the game. There's no two ways about it, because Aaron Gillane was causing all sorts of problems for Limerick, especially in the second half. Or causing all sorts of problems for Tipperary, I should say. Obviously played a crucial part in that goal. In Limerick's first goal, when of course some brilliant work in the midfield from William O'Donoghue on Tipperary's puck out. They overturned them in the midfield, worked it onto Aaron Gillane, whose shot was obviously saved by Nicky Quaid, and Shamey Flanagan scored the rebound. So certainly there was all sorts of problems Aaron Gillane was creating, and had he been sent off, it could have very well been a different game. Maybe Tipperary would have been able to turn the tide, and Shamey Flanagan obviously late on as well. That's a clear punch, isn't it? I mean, it's a definite red in my opinion, or at least he gets the yellow, but it could have another referee probably would have given a red there. So yeah, I mean, it was contentious, it was interesting, and but you have to give credit to Limerick, you really do, for their second half performance, for the way they turned the tide. And I mean, like in the first half in particular, like I honestly did feel like after Tipperary outscoring them 1-9 to 5 points, after the first water break, and the fact that Jake Morris and Jason Ford was having a tremendous game, was winning so much ball, the Limerick defence were really struggling. The likes of Sean Finn and even Richie English as well. Obviously Richie English went off at the start of the or just at the end of the first half with an injury, I believe. But they were struggling. They really were, Limerick. And I really felt like, okay, so we've seen Limerick this year not be at their best. They haven't been up to it so far. They haven't, clicked into gear. And I felt like this was the game they were going to do so. But it was Tipperary who clicked, and Tipperary were winning absolutely everything. And the long puck out strategy from Barry Hogan was working absolute wonders. Tipp's midfield were winning puck outs. They were offloading the ball quickly onto their half forward line, and they were just causing all sorts of havoc from Limerick. And a 10-point deficit at half time against your big rivals in a Munster final. I mean, what did John Kiley and Paul Kinnerk say to that team at half time to turn that around? Because it was absolutely extraordinary. I mean, they just came out a completely different team. They were revved up, they were fired up, they were winning absolutely everything, clinical as well. They mustn't hit too many wides in that period between I believe it was like the 35th minute up until like the 56th minute, when Kyle Hayes got that second goal, outscoring them 2-12 to 2 points. And I suppose from a Tipperary point of view, you'd have to be devastated with the way that second half performance went. I mean, it was so poor. They were lackluster. They were missing a couple of easy chances as well. I remember Jake Morris and Jason Ford dropping a few chances wide. So it was very disappointing from a Tipperary point of view. But you have to give credit to Limerick for the way that they fought. They fought like dogs in that second half. Keane Lynch was having a massive influence as well. And obviously Kyle Hayes, like not just his goal, but his overall contribution in the game as well. And like to have the tenacity to pick up the ball from there, to run the amount of distance that he did, and then slot it brilliantly past Barry Hogan, it was fantastic from a Limerick point of view. And like what I was saying there earlier, I felt like this was the game where it was going to click into gear for Limerick in the first half. That certainly wasn't the case, but in the second half it absolutely clicked, and it was absolutely brilliant. And maybe being 10 points down was the wake-up call that they needed, because they absolutely showed up in that second half, and they've shown why they are one of the best teams in hurling. of the past, of this generation of hurling right now. They are the dominant force. They are the Kilkenny of, many years ago. Obviously, they still have a long way to go. Kilkenny won, 4 All-Irelands in a row. I remember at one stage they were, winning All-Irelands with ease in many ways. You knew Kilkenny were probably going to win the All-Ireland at the start of every year, in the mid-2000s and kind of the early 2010s as well. And obviously right up until Tipp obviously stopped them from winning the 5 in a row in 2016. So certainly without doubt or 2010 actually, I think it was, they stopped the 5 in a row, I should say. But obviously Limerick have a long way to go. They need to win a couple of All-Irelands before they can get up to that level, but they certainly are trending towards that, winning 3 Munster titles in a row. Munster is such a competitive province. The fact that there hasn't been a team since 1986 that has won 3 Munster titles in a row probably says a lot about how competitive Munster has been in the past 10 to 15 years. But Limerick have done it, and fair play to them. A tremendous turnaround. And you'd have to say at this point that they are favourites for the All-Ireland. There's no two questions about it, in my opinion. Kilkenny are certainly looking like good challengers. Tipperary, I'm sure we'll go into the qualifiers and we'll look to regroup. But Limerick are looking absolutely fantastic at the moment. There's no two ways about it after that second half performance. They will need to work on their first half performance because you won't be able to turn it around every time. Tipperary, if there was another team there, like Tipperary, were really poor in that second half. There's no two ways about it. If that was a Kilkenny, would Limerick have had enough to turn it around? I'm not too sure. But Tipperary are a contender and Limerick were absolutely fantastic. So it will be very interesting to keep an eye on it. But yeah, look, listen, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up here. Do leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Let me know down in the comments below what were your thoughts on the game. Fair play to Limerick, commiserations to Tipperary. Both sides obviously march on. Limerick going into an All-Ireland semi-final next. Tipperary going into the qualifiers. So it'll be interesting to keep an eye on both teams.